Here's a story about the Kloisenberger Rebbe. Kloisenberger Rebbe was a very great, very holy, very pure person. He had a lot of Hasidim. Almost all of them were killed in the Holocaust. His whole family was killed in the Holocaust. Like I said in the previous class, he had 11 children, and they were all killed with his wife and his parents and his wife's family. They were also killed. And like I said, he even the government of Israel even had him write a letter to the prime minister of Argentina after they kidnapped Eichmann from Argentina. So they had, and the president of Argentina, the prime minister, was very angry, and they had the Kloisenberger Rebbe write a letter to him and say, "Listen, I lost in my family, in addition to my 11 children, and about 250 close relatives, my family and my wife's family, because of this man." Because of this man, they systematically rounded up all the Jews and killed all the Jews, and they shot him in the streets. It was specifically for the Jews, and you can't expect me not to demand revenge. But the letter didn't have any effect anyway. They didn't, it didn't have any effect. But nevertheless, he wrote a letter. So it says, so once the Rebbe was speaking to his followers, this was in the middle of the week. He had a lot of institutions, a lot of Torah institutions, a hospital, etc. He built also. It's in here in Israel. He moved in Israel. So he was making a dinner. In the course of the dinner, he told a story. And the story that he told is that at the end of the war, they made all the prisoners, I guess in Auschwitz, wherever it was, they made a death march. They knew that the Russians were coming or the Americans were coming, whatever, to free the camp. And they didn't want there to be any evidence. So they made a death march. And that way they figured people would die on the way. They wouldn't have to kill people. And they would die on the way. They didn't give people what to eat, what to drink. And they wanted to march them to some place deep in the forests or something like that and kill them in the forest, whatever it was. So he said, we made this death march. It was in the summer. It was hot. It was a hot day. And we had to lay in the road. That's why we had to lay on the road. And there were guards all over the place. And anybody who walked off of the road, they got killed. And some people purposely ran off the road. They couldn't take it anymore. So somebody came to me, he crawled over to me, or he passed the word on. Rebbe, we're hungry, we're thirsty, we haven't got anything to drink. We're thirsty, people are dying. Can you do a miracle? So the Rebbe said, what the Germans had, every person had a little spoon. A person had a little spoon. When they passed food out, so the people wouldn't eat food with their hands, whatever. So they fast food, whatever the soup, whatever was watery soup, but at least people would have something to drink with. So, because they wanted to keep people alive, they wanted to keep people alive to do work or whatever, and they would kill them. They wanted to kill them. They didn't want people to kill them. Professor Viktor Frankl writes that the Germans very much did not want people to commit suicide. They wanted to kill them themselves. They wanted to squeeze work out of it. Anyway, go into the anyway. So he said to everyone has a spoon. Dig into the ground. The Rebbe said, I told everyone to dig into the ground where they were, and they'll see that water will come out. So it was insane. But on the other hand, they had no choice. It was better than what they had. At least it was. So he passed the word down, and he said, and everyone dug with their spoons, and they brought water from the ground, and that kept everybody alive. And the Rebbe said, and if you don't believe me, you don't believe the story, because the people, he was speaking to all sorts of donors that came. If you don't believe me, he said, here, ask Rabbi Avram. He was there. He'll tell you. And he stood up and said, yes, it's true. So the Rebbe made a miracle in order to save people's lives. He brought water from a rock, just like it was in the desert. It was in the desert. And as I told you before in the previous class, they asked the Kloisenberger Rebbe what was the worst moment that he suffered in the Holocaust. He said the worst moment was when we were freed by the Americans. They said, why was that so bad? He said, it was bad because I was sure after what we went through, I was sure that Mashiach would be the one that would redeem us. I was sure that would be Mashiach, that would be it. There wouldn't be any more troubles to the Jewish people. When I saw it was only the Americans, I realized that my wishes had not been fulfilled. Have a good day with Mashiach now. Thank you very much for coming, and see you all tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the